Will Donald Trump be facing off against Bob Iger in 2024?
Mr. Reagan.
All right, so big news yesterday. This is really crazy. Now, anybody who cares about media or Hollywood knows that fairly recently, I think it was a little over a year ago, Bob Iger stepped down as the head of Walt Disney. Bob Iger had been there for a gazillion years. He had ultimate control over Disney, and slowly but surely, he had made that company super woke. Eventually, Disney was losing money. Bad things were happening. People weren't watching. They weren't paying as much money to go to the parks. There was COVID. It was a big disaster. And so he was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to give the reins over to another guy. We're going to give it to this guy called Bob Chapek. Now, Bob Chapek was a money guy. He didn't really care about politics as much. I think probably Bob Chapek is a Republican or a conservative or a libertarian or something like that, like low key, right? He doesn't talk about it. He probably pretends to be very woke at the company, but he made it very clear that Disney was no longer going to be in the woke politics game, at least with regard to what they were putting in their movies and TV shows. Now, we all know that that didn't necessarily stop a lot of the employees at Disney, because Disney is absolutely saturated with wokeness, and that's basically Bob Iger's fault. That's the company that he created in the end. And so the people at Disney, the people who worked at Disney, the creative types, the producers, all those folks, they really hated Bob Chapek. And so when you have a company who thinks that you're a fascist, right? Everybody at the company thinks that. I think it's probably a fairly difficult thing to manage. So Bob Chapek did not have the easiest time of it. But anyway, now Bob Iger is back. What does that mean? Well, maybe you heard it in the news already, but Bob Iger, for some reason, decided, you know what? Retirement isn't so much fun, actually. I want to go be the head of Disney again. So he talked to the board of directors, and they kind of conspired this deal together where they were just going to oust Chapek, and Bob Iger was going to be set up in charge of Disney again. Now, I have a theory that I haven't heard from anywhere else, but I think it's strongly supported by a lot of evidence, that the reason that Bob Iger is taking over Disney again is at least in part due to a desire by Bob Iger, I think, to become the next president of the United States of America. Why do I think this? What is the evidence for this? You know what? I'm not actually going to sell you something in this video. There's nothing to sell. I'm not going to put an ad in this video, but I tell you what I am going to do. I'm going to ask you guys to subscribe to a new YouTube channel that I have just created. It's called Alpha Critic. I just posted my first video today. It's about the new Star Wars show, Andor. Do I like it? Do I not like it? You're going to have to go to Alpha Critic to find out. But I've created this new channel just so I could talk about Hollywood stuff and movies and TV shows that I like, movies and TV shows I dislike, how woke everything is. There is going to be a little bit of a political angle to it, but primarily it's just going to be entertainment reviews of movies and TV shows, and maybe entertainment news a little bit. I do a little bit of that on this channel already, but I kind of want to switch and just keep this more politically oriented, and then leave the movie reviews and critiques for Alpha Critic. And hopefully that's going to be a big success. So just pause the video if you can, click on the link below, subscribe to Alpha Critic. All right, so Bob Iger taking over Disney seems a bit counterintuitive. Why would I suspect that this is some kind of a plan to then set himself up to be president? Wouldn't he want to free himself up of any entanglements with other businesses? Why would he do this? It has to do with the phenomenon of prestige, right? Clout, as the kids call it these days. When Bob Iger was the CEO of Disney, he got interviews with everyone. Everybody wanted to talk to him. He was admired, he was revered, he was respected, and he was in demand, and he felt it. And he knew he was an important person. When you step down from a position like that, you basically lose all of your clout. Suddenly, nobody cares about you. I'm pretty sure this is why Tom Brady went back to the NFL. This is why older musicians tend to go on like 16 farewell tours. This is why people retire from public life over and over and over again, is because when you're famous, or when you have this clout, when you have this notoriety, you're a public figure, and then you step down and you kind of disappear and fade into the nothingness. I think that really hurts people. I think that they feel it, and I don't think that they like it. People like to be important, and if they lose that importance, all they want is to get that back. Now, Bob Iger was, for many years, courted by various people on the left to run for president as a Democrat, right?
Why didn't you run for president? I wish, first of all, more than ever, every day, I think, I wish you had done it. I wish you had done it.
I'm deeply flattered. I had this conversation with President Obama and his family a few times.
Yes.
His kids and his wife clearly believe that I had the better job.
Sources say Iger is considering his friend's nudges to run for president of the United States in 2020 as a Democrat. Iger told THR back in June that a lot of people, have urged me to seek public office. Sources tell THR that Iger has consulted with former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg about making the leap from the boardroom to public office.
Well, it was rumored in the press and in your book that you were thinking of leaving Disney to run for president of the United States.
Well, there was some truth to that, both before the 2016 election and then after the 2016 election. I gave it some serious thought. Actually, post the election of Donald Trump, I gave it a lot of thought and actually did a fair amount of homework to study the feasibility of it.
And there has been a lot of speculation over the years that this might be why Bob Iger made Disney so woke, right? You know, if you've got a bunch of leftist friends and they're constantly talking about diversity and inclusion and LGBTQ stuff and whatnot, you think, okay, this is what these people like. This is what they want. If I'm going to go to a cocktail party with these folks, I need to be able to tell them I did some woke things to my company so that I can seem cool, right? Also, there's the whole ESG thing, and I think Disney really leaned into that, like, invest in Disney, we're super woke. But at the end of the day, a lot of people think that Iger was trying to court leftists in return. Like, he was being courted to run for president, and so then he thought, okay, well, I'm going to court all the other leftists out there and sort of figure this out and see if I can't maybe run for president. And if I make Disney woke enough, maybe people will respect me enough that they'll say, okay, we're going to get behind this guy. And the reason people have this theory is that Bob Iger himself has mentioned many times, and I think he wrote this in his book, which is why he's talking about it in all these interviews. He thought about running for president in 2016. He thought about it. He said he seriously considered it, especially after Donald Trump was elected. He was seriously considering running for president. Now, this didn't happen. He wasn't given the opportunity. In 2020, they rammed through the dementia patient because, you know, they needed their puppet in the White House. But now things are different, right? Now, the guy that leftists hate the most is certainly running in 2024. That would be Donald J. Trump. I think that Bob Iger probably doesn't like Trump, or at least he probably recognizes that all his leftist buddies deeply hate Donald Trump. And so if Trump runs, Bob Iger probably thinks that whoever runs as a Democrat has a very good chance of winning. Biden's going to be out in 2024. We all know that. That's not going to happen. So then who is it? Well, they don't really have a good lineup. Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders? Who do they really have? AOC? I mean, the truth is, if 2024 is the best opportunity to run for president for any Democrat in America. That's why you hear so many rumors about Gavin Newsom doing it. Yeah, you've done a great job with California, Gavin. What a brilliant president he would be, right? So you're getting all these folks who've heard people tell them, you should run for president, you should run for president. And they're going, I should run for president, I should run for president. When you have as much power as Bob Iger or Gavin Newsom, these kind of people, and you get everybody kissing your butt all the time, you will get a lot of people telling you, you could be the president. You could win. You would be a great president. You should totally do it. And I think that goes to a lot of people's head. And I do think that they start to believe the hype. And it starts to stroke their ego, right? And they start to, oh, yeah, I could be president. I would be an amazing president. I'd be better than Trump, for sure. I'd be fantastic. I should totally run for president. So I think that he's convinced. I think that the reason that he's doing this takeover of Disney again, kicking Chapek out and taking back over, is because he wants to stop Chapek from de-wokeifying Disney. He wants to double down on the wokeness. I think that he believes that now that COVID's gone, that he could make Disney profitable again. Can he? Not if he re-wokeifies it. I think that'll kill Disney. But we'll see. I don't know what he's planning on doing with Disney. But here's why I think he's probably going to run for president. I think that his time away from the CEO position, his time retired from Disney, gave him perspective. He realized that he was a nobody. And I think that felt very isolating and very lonely and very sad. And I think that he now craves more than ever power that he had before at Disney. But if you think about it, the power that he had at Disney is limited. It's limited only to that company. If he was president of the United States of America, wow, that's even better. That's even more notoriety. That's even more success. That's even more fame. He'd go down in the history books as a president. He wants this. I can tell he wants this. And I have one more piece of evidence to suggest that this is the plan. And think about this. When you are CEO of Disney, as I said at the beginning of the video, everybody wants to interview you. You are out there constantly. You're in demand. You're in the public spotlight. You're known. Now, this is important if you're trying to run for president. The more press you get, the more eyes on you on television, the better, right? Donald Trump had his own show, The Apprentice. He was super famous by the time he ran for president. The more famous, the more notoriety that Bob Iger can get before he runs for president, the better. And he knows that Bob Iger in retirement isn't that newsworthy, isn't that interesting, probably not going to get on TV all that often. Bob Iger, as CEO of Disney, once again, he's going to be doing 1,000 interviews. He knows he's going to get those interviews. He knows he's going to get that press. He knows that he's going to be on everybody's TV screen. I think this is a power move to try to get into the presidency in 2024. And here is my last piece of evidence to indicate this. He didn't sign a 5-year contract to be CEO of Disney. He didn't sign a 3-year contract. He didn't sign a 1-year contract. He signed a 2-year contract. When is the next presidential election? It's in exactly 2 years. Bob Iger signed a contract for exactly the amount of time it would take him to get to the White House. I am absolutely convinced that Bob Iger is going to try to run for president in 2024. Now, I may be wrong. You guys feel free to cite this video in 2024 if he doesn't run, or even 2023, because that's when he's going to have to start running, I think. But yeah, I think that he's going to at least jump into the primaries, and we'll see how it goes. But I think this is a power move to try to become the next president of the United States of America. And that's going to be an interesting fight. What if he does get it? What if he gets to be the Democrat nominee and he goes up against Donald Trump? I suspect Donald Trump will absolutely destroy him. Thing is, I think a lot of these people take Donald Trump for granted. I mean, I know Hillary Clinton did. Joe Biden didn't. He just hid in his basement and, waited for all the ballot harvesting to come through. But I think a lot of these folks that think, I could just take out Donald Trump, they don't really understand what they're doing. They don't understand what they're getting themselves into. They underestimate the man. Yeah, I think Bob Iger's something handed to him if he does run for president. Honestly, this news saddens me, because the reason that I wanted to make this video, I know it's not really super relevant to the lives of ordinary Americans. Nobody really cares who runs Disney, although, any parent should worry about that a little bit. I'm doing a new YouTube channel. It's called Alpha Critic. And I'm going to be going and watching all the new stuff that comes out, and I'm going to tell you guys whether I like it or not, how woke it is, where they did good, where they messed up, and I'm going to try to be doing something like 2 videos a week. So if you guys can subscribe to Alpha Critic, even if you're not that interested in that kind of stuff, just to get my channel up and running, that would be fantastic. So the video's just about over here. When you're done, please click on the link below for Alpha Critic, and we'll go ahead and try to make that channel a success. All right, guys? Thanks so much. I've already got a show that I do Mondays now. If you listen to Salem Radio with Sebastian Gorka, I do a radio show with him where I talk about movies every Monday, and we talk about movies from the 80s and stuff like that, and that's a lot of fun. But this Alpha Critic show, this is something I've been planning on doing for a couple years now. This is a couple years in the making. So I'm finally diving in. I'm finally doing it. And yeah, so go ahead and if you want to see my show with Gorka, check out Gorka's Rumble channel where I'm on there with him, or listen to us on the radio. But please, 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 everybody subscribe to Alpha Critic. That's it for me. And remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much that is not so. Good night.